everybody. Welcome. I'm Ellen Susman, the Director of Art and Embassies, and it's my pleasure to welcome the Secretary of State and all of you to the second Art and Embassies Medal of Arts Awards. Today we honor 7 artists whose talent and dedication to their work and mission of cultivating dialogue and exchange through the visual arts has enriched our program for many, many years. But first, a warm welcome to the Ambassador from China to the United States, His Excellency Cui Tiankai, and to the Executive Director of the Mexican Institute, Laura Ramirez Rascado. I would also like to acknowledge our own State Department luminaries, Tony Blinken, the Deputy Secretary of State, and the Director of the Overseas Buildings Operations, Lydia Muniz, who administers the United States effort around the world to build both sustainable and secure new embassies. Heartfelt thanks and gratitude to the sponsors of our luncheon, Jill and Jay Bernstein, Blake Byrne, Gail and Al Engelberg, Jeannie and Mickey Klein, Joe Carroll Lauder, Sarah Morgan, Shelley Rubin, Lori Tisch, and Sarah and Gary Walkowitz. I'm also immensely grateful to Dick and Sue Wallach and former Ambassador Kathy Hall and her husband Craig of Hall Wines for so graciously donating the delicious wine on your tables. And finally, to Art and Embassy's amazing staff. You will meet somebody from our office at every table. Without them, there would be no curated temporary or permanent exhibitions for ambassadors or embassies, no web presence, no cultural outreach, and no publications like the beautiful booklets at every seat, which is a perfect example of the more than 70 we produce every year. And now that the acknowledgments are done, I'd like to say a few quick words about why we're here, about what matters, and it is this. We're all in this room because at the core of our being, we believe that art does and can change lives. It can create meaning and bridge a divide, show us something new, show us something old in a new way, enliven and help us to question ourselves and the world around us. As art classes and funding are cut from schools and public programs, Art and Embassies is proof that the visual arts matter on a huge and global scale. I recently received a fortune cookie that read, "Be brave enough to live creatively." And looking at the artists today receiving the award, there can be no doubt that this is their mantra. All of you are driven to create. Your works will forever grace the walls of our embassies around the world. Your art is often the first and only vision of America people in another country see. And as they walk into an annex or stand in line for a visa, your art welcomes them into the home of democracy. Art and Embassies works with young emerging artists, older established artists, American artists, international artists. And when we go into a foreign country, the work of artists in that host country hangs on the walls alongside yours. That is power, that is conversation, and that is diplomacy. Artists themselves are often the most well-spoken about the place art has in our lives. Bill Viola, the master of contemporary video art, said this last summer: "The hallmarks of all human beings is creativity, and all of us in this room are creative in one way or another. But before creativity can manifest, there must be inspiration, which starts as a tiny spark in the human heart, a recognition of something that touches us or catches us off guard. And then finally, there's mystery, the most important of all. Today, we live in a world of reflections and mirrors. The mirror reflects only what is shown. To learn something new, one must break the mirror to discover what is beyond." I thank you for your contribution, for helping us around the world, and Art and Embassies is counting on everybody in this room to continue expanding our mission. And now, the Secretary. Sometimes you meet someone and you know that they're destined for greatness. I first met Secretary Kerry in New Hampshire in 1972 when I was 21 at his friend George Butler's True Farm. We were all working to help elect George McGovern that cold winter. And John had his own dreams and a plan for a life dedicated to public service. The synchronicity of life never ceases to amaze me, and it is my honor to serve our Secretary of State, a man who has worked tirelessly his entire life to make this country and the world a better place to live. Ladies and gentlemen, Secretary of State John Kerry.